Well, the smallest one we had was about 2.5 meters. Biggest one we had was about 3.5 meters. And the rest of them were also between 2.5 and 3 meters. Now, all of them were still juveniles, and only 2 of the sharks we've had were definitely male. Now, the only way you can tell between males and females is by looking underneath the shark, on the belly of the shark. You look at this picture, the tail is up there, head is down here. Look towards the tail, there's 2 fins sitting over there. It's called your pelvic fins. Both males and females have them, but only your males will have, you can see in this shark, those 2 things are sticking out there. It's called claspers. It's just the extension of those pelvic fins, but they use it for mating. So only the males have it, not the females. You see those fins, nothing coming out? Female. That's sticking out, male. It does happen sometimes with your small sharks, and those claspers are still so small that they're hidden in between the 2 fins. Then you need to jump in there, poke in there, open up, see what's happening. One of the sharks we've had on this tour, one of the younger ones could have been either male or female. Eventually when they bigger, those claspers, they can be over a foot long, about 1 inch or 2 thick. And then when they turn slightly, it's quite easy to see that. Now the one male we've had was about 2.5 meters. The other one we've had was about 3 meters. Now, your males will normally be between 3 and 3.5 meters, about 10 to 12 feet when they become sexually mature. And with males, it is pretty easy to tell if the shark is sexually matured or not. All you need to do is you need to feel those claspers. If you feel quite stiff, it means that the shark is sexually mature. If it's soft, very elastic, it bends very easily, it means that it's still a juvenile. There's a little bit of cartilage that forms on the inside of those claspers. So, and that you can do that with any species of shark. Obviously with white sharks, I don't really like it if you go feel those claspers, but you can do it, it's pretty easy to tell. The big male we've had, or the bigger one of the 2 males we've had, big 3 meters, slight possibility it might be an adult, but I don't think it's really there yet. Now your females will only become sexually matured when they're between 4 and 4.5 meters. About 13 to 15 feet. The females are much bigger and much older before they become sexually mature. And none of the sharks we've had today was even close to 3 or close to 4 meters. So the biggest one we had was maybe about 3.5 meters, 12 feet. Maximum size, your males get up to about 5 meters. So females will get up to anything between 6 and 6.5 meters. The biggest white shark that's ever been caught in this area was 6.3 meters, 21 feet. And they caught it by accident in a fishing net. This happened back in 1987. And back then they had no scale big enough to weigh the shark and whole. What they had to do is cut it up in pieces, weigh all the pieces separately. And just the meat of the shark, the flesh of the shark, weighed 1,242 kilograms. That is 2,700 and something and 30 pounds. The liver of the shark, just the liver alone, that was another 200 kilograms. So 440 pounds of liver. And then you need to add the blood, the guts, all the fluids that are spilled. It's quite possible that shark weighed about 2,000 kilos, about 4,500 pounds. And as far as we know, that's the 2nd longest white shark ever caught. In body mass, we know of a few that's been slightly shorter with more body mass. And the biggest white shark that we know of that's a fairly reliable record was a shark they caught in Australia. This was back in 1954, close to Adelaide. In length, the shark was 6.4 meters, 21.5 feet. So it was only about that much longer than the one that was caught over here. Now, according to the Australians, they say this shark weighed 3,130 kilograms, 6,900 pounds. How much you trust the guys from Adelaide? Just checking. Normally white sharks will be between 2.5 tons. To say it was just over 3 tons, not impossible. That's big. To compare that with what we've seen today, take the biggest one we've had today, add about another 3 meters, about 10 feet in length. But the biggest one we've had today, I don't think that shark is much more than about 600, 700, 800 kilos at the most. That's about 1,800, 1,900 pounds. According to the Australians, their biggest shark was almost 7,000 pounds. So it gives you an indication of how big they can get. It does happen, though, that from the size that we've seen today, that they will start to get wider quicker than longer. For every half a meter to a meter they grow in length, they almost double in body mass. up to about 3.5 meters. They grow quickly in length, but they stay fairly slim. Now, it is very seldom that we see the really big ones. And as they get bigger and older, they get a lot more shy, a lot more cautious, more selective on what they go for. Very often, just with the boat splashing in the water, the commotion going on, they don't like that very much. And also because we only use fish, as a dead fish, it doesn't give them any energy. Just because they follow the smell of dead fish, they know whatever they're going to get there is not going to reward them for the effort they put in. So when you do see a big one, very often they just swim by once or twice and they're gone. The smaller ones are your younger ones, because they're a lot more inquisitive and fish is still a big part of their diet. They just, as it's more likely to come up and investigate something that's on the surface, especially if it smells like fish. And that's why it's mostly the younger ones, the juveniles, that we normally get coming up to the boat. Just quickly what the sharks are doing in that area where we've been today, because as I said earlier, there's an island out there, and there's between 30 and 40,000 Cape fur seals on that island. And a lot of people would think that the sharks would be sitting right next to the island, but they're just waiting for all those seals to be jumping in the water. Now the problem that the sharks have with seals, and especially with your fur seals, because they're quite small, they're very agile, they can turn very quickly in the water. In a straight line, these sharks are much faster. They can reach a speed of up to 30 miles an hour, about 50 kilometers an hour. The problem is they've got no stamina. They can't chase their prey over a long distance for a long period of time. They have to do a surprise attack on their prey to be able to catch them. So what they do with seals, they go down to a few meters, depending on what the visibility is. As the seal is swimming overhead, the shark can sense where the seal is without the seal seeing the shark. As in the morning with white sharks, their eyesight is brilliant, but they don't use their eyesight for hunting. In absolute zero visibility, they can pinpoint exactly where the prey is. But they will come up with 30 miles an hour, and that speed that they hit the seal with, that's when you see them breach. That momentum just takes them clear out of the water. The problem is, if they don't get the seal in their mouth on the first attempt, they forget about catching the seal. Because once the seal can see where the shark is, all the seal will do is stay close to the shark, get behind it. Once the seal is behind the shark can't turn around fast enough to grab it. Most of the time also the seal will be biting the shark in its tail just to try to get rid of it. Quite a few of the sharks have had to that small bite marks and scars on them. Most of it is done by seals. They spend a huge amount of energy trying to catch these seals. Their success rate is only about 10, maybe 15% in catching the seals, and that's why they go for second best. And that's in any other sharks, smaller sharks, skates, rays, other pelagic fish. And that's also why the sharks don't stay in the area. As they come in, stay for a couple of days, they see if they can get lucky in catching anything that's in the area. If not, they move on. The only time that we do find the sharks around the island is usually our winter time. Now right now, October, November, it's the pupping season for the seals that's on the island. So pretty soon now there's going to be a huge amount of seal pups out there. But it takes them between 7 and 9 weeks before the young seal pups start to swim. And only by end of March, beginning April, when these young seal pups, when they start to fend for themselves, that's when you will have the sharks going up to the island, going after these young seal pups, which is obviously a lot easier to catch than adult seals. And you'll find the sharks around the island there up to about end of August, beginning September. Now, as soon as the mating season starts for the seals, sharks don't go close to the island at all. You've got all the big bull seals there, 2 or 3 of those big bull seals, if they team up on the shark, they can do a huge amount of injury to the shark. So the sharks don't even bother going up the island. And what happens in our summertime, as I said in the boat to some of you, in our summertime the water is a lot colder than what it is in wintertime, just because of different winds. We've got different currents, we've got a lot of upwelling from the deep cold currents. In our summertime, your surface temperature of the water can easily drop down to between 10 and 12 degrees Celsius. If you go down 20 meters, it's between 6 and 8 degrees Celsius. And white sharks prefer cold water, but even for them that's getting a little bit too cold. So what they do is they come into shallow water, and then especially in small bays like this, in the corners of the bay, you don't get the main current going all the way to the shore. And also, so with other words, the water temperature is about 5 or 6 degrees warmer than what it is further out. But also close to shore, we still have waves breaking in the shore. The dissolved oxygen in the water normally is a lot higher than what it might be further out. And that's kind of the main reason why so many sharks will go closer to shore. And that's not just in the area where we've been today. If you go swim anywhere between Cape Town and Port Elizabeth, and most of these beaches, there's a very good chance that there's a shark that knows about you. The only reason we go to that specific area, that's the only place where they allow us to operate that close to shore. If we could go wherever we want to, we would have stayed in Cape Town. As in Cape Town, there's just as many sharks. But in Cape Town, we're not allowed to work that close to shore, just because of the amount of people that live there. Now, although so many sharks will go close to shore, it's very, very seldom that they will actually go after humans. And again, when they're so close to shore, they're not really in a hunting mode or feeding mode. Naturally, there's not really that much food for them. Luckily, they're still inquisitive, so they will still come and investigate sort of what we do, and they will still come up and check, see what you're doing. But when it's a human that's moving in the water, a lot of people blame shark attacks on mistaken identity. They say that the shark thought you're a seal or a dolphin or a turtle or a small whale, depending on the person. But again, as the sharks don't have to be able to see their prey to know what it is. Even from about 20 meters away, the shark can pinpoint not just where prey is, but also what kind of prey it is. And they use a different hunting method in every different kind of prey. When it's a human, just the way that you move in the water, they can tell that you're not something that's part of their natural habitat. And also because of our size, anything in their natural habitat, if it's our size and it fights back, they will get injured in the process. They prefer to go for something that's a little bit smaller, that's easier to kill and will give them a lot of reward for the effort they put in. And that's why 99% of the time they're going to swim right past you and you won't even know that the shark was there. The few times where they may go as far as taking a bite, it's usually either the shark just exploring, and that happens in about, I would say about 80 to 90% of shark attacks. The shark purely just sends you on the surface, they don't know what you are, only way they can make sure is by taking a bite. Once they've taken a bite, then only they realize, made a mistake, apologize nicely, off they go. And it's not because we taste bad, it's just that we're too bony. So if they do consume you, they will spend more energy just digesting all your bones than what they get as a reward. So that's why most of the shark attacks, one or two bites, they just realize this thing is not good enough eating, they move on. When people die, they usually die because of blood loss and not because of the shark killing them instantly. If it's a shark attack that's a little bit more vicious, it's very often the shark just protecting its personal space. They're very solitary animals, hunt alone, feed alone. Even with what we do, you normally only get them one at a time. Although throughout the day you can have a lot of different ones. If there's too many of them, there's a good possibility that they may attack each other. The same thing may happen with humans, where you're swimming in an area where there's maybe some food for them. We've had cases in Cape Town where people were fishing, people swimming close to them, and we've had at least 2 shark attacks like that where sharks came in and attacked them pretty viciously. But then as I said, that's purely just trying to get rid of the competition. They don't sense you as food, they think you're after the same food they're after. But still, at the end of the day, if you look at the risk of a shark attack, and you actually look at how seldom it happens that the shark will go as far as taking a bite, it's almost nothing at all. Now obviously, if you guys want to go back, you're going to say that we've had 20 sharks, and the smallest was 6 meters. There's obviously nothing that's going to stop you from making up your own story. Just keep in mind, the biggest one around here was 6.3 meters. If you can keep it just underneath that, I'll back you up on that. And on the boat, I had a few questions from some of you, but was there anything else you still want to know about anything you guys saw out there today, or anything you wanted to know about sharks? Or
how often they have to eat? Like, because you keep saying that like they have to like they miss prey for 10 or 15%. They only get 10 or 15% of the time. So what? They survive like a couple of weeks.
Sometimes for about 2 or 3 months they may not feed at all. In winter time they normally eat a lot more than what they really need. And all the excess energy is stored in their liver because they don't have fat like mammals. So they store all their energy in their liver. The liver is the biggest organ in the shark's body. It can make up about 2/3 of the whole body cavity. And they store it in the form of proteins and amino acids and stuff like that. So in summertime they go into kind of almost like a hibernation mode. With the cold water, metabolism slows down, they slow down their digestive system. As I said, very often for about 2 or 3 months they may not be feeding at all. And then in winter time, in the warmer water, they're more active, they're more in the hunting mode and the feeding mode. Although, as I said, they're only successful catching their prey, well, specifically with seals, other prey, their success rate will be about closer to about 30%. So 1 out of 3 times they will still get their prey, but they're in a hunting mode the whole day. You know, so they will actually eat 2 or 3 times a day in the times when they're really hunting or when they're feeding. And as I said, it's more than what they really need, but they will just store that excess energy. So in the times when they're not feeding, then they'll be using that. But it's very difficult to say that they need to eat a certain amount of food, because if they eat a seal that weighs 100 kilograms, that will provide them with a lot more energy than eating a shark that weighs 100 kilograms. And then eating a shark that weighs 100 kilograms gives them more energy than eating a fish that weighs 100 kilograms. So it depends a lot on what they eat. And then obviously external factors as well, the water temperature, how active they are, a lot of things like that as well. The size of the shark, big sharks will need more than smaller sharks. So it's very, very difficult to say, listen, a shark needs 30 kilograms of meat every day to be able to survive, because with every shark it's different. Anything else?
Do I stay up and down the coast of Africa?